They called him the Iron Alpha, King Ryven Kaelor, the man who carved an empire from frozen bones and black water. But here's what nobody tells you about power. It does not make you invincible. It makes you terrified. Terrified enough to destroy the one thing that could save you. Tonight, I'm going to tell you how the most feared ruler in Dravor rejected his mate in front of his entire court, and how that single moment of cowardice nearly destroyed an entire kingdom. Stay with me until the end, because this gets darker than you think. Hit that like button and drop your city in the comments so I know my pack is listening. Ryven Kaelor woke that morning the same way he had for 7 years. Alone. The obsidian walls of Nightfang Keep absorbed sound like a tomb. No servants entered his chambers before dawn. No advisors knocked. The only company he kept was the cold and the weight of the crown sitting on black stone across the room. He dressed in silence. Black leather, steel buckles. The ritual armor of a king who had stopped pretending he was anything else but a weapon, his kingdom aimed at its enemies. His reflection stared back from the polished metal of his breastplate. Dark eyes. Sharp jaw. The kind of face that made grown wolves lower their heads in submission. Scars crossed his knuckles from fights he barely remembered. More decorated his ribs beneath the leather where blades had tried and failed to find his heart. People feared him. They should. He had earned every ounce of that terror through blood and calculation and the systematic elimination of anyone stupid enough to challenge him. The empire stretched from the frost-morn cliffs to the Blackwater deltas. 12 territories. 37 packs. All of them bent the knee because Ryven Kaelor did not negotiate. He conquered. And when conquered wolves complained, he reminded them what happened to the last alpha who tried to rebel. Nothing remained of that alpha but a scorched foundation and a warning. This was what power looked like. Not the crown or the throne or the banners hanging in the great hall. Power was the silence that followed him through corridors, the way soldiers checked their words twice before speaking. The cold calculation required to execute a cousin who plotted treason while smiling at family dinners. Ryven had learned early that mercy was just another word for weakness wearing a kind face. His father taught him that lesson with his dying breath. His mother reinforced it when she abandoned him to marry into a rival pack. Every advisor who ever suggested compassion ended up dead or exiled within a year. The crown demanded sacrifice. He had fed it everything, his humanity, his capacity for trust, every soft feeling that made men vulnerable. And in return, he got an empire that would never dare challenge him. Until today. The war council was already assembled when he entered the throne room. 20 nobles in formal black clustered around the strategy table like crows picking at a carcass. Maps spread across polished oak, reports stacked 3 inches deep. Border disputes, trade routes, execution warrants waiting for his signature. His beta commander, Garen, stood at the head of the table. A huge man with silver threading through his black beard and a scar splitting his left eyebrow. He had fought beside Ryven for 16 years, saved his life 4 times, never once questioned an order. Ryven trusted him as much as he trusted anyone, which was barely at all. Garen gestured at the southern territories on the map. His voice carried across the chamber with practiced authority. The border massacre happened 3 nights ago, 74 soldiers dead. Rogue pack. They hit the supply caravan at midnight and disappeared into the mountains before reinforcements arrived. Lord Varric, a thin wolf with soft hands and a softer spine, cleared his throat. Sweat already beaded on his forehead despite the cold. Your Majesty, the Southern Lords demand retaliation. They want blood for blood. Ryven did not look up from the reports. He never looked at Varric directly. Eye contact implied the man deserved acknowledgement. They will get it. Varric shifted his weight. His voice climbed half an octave. When, Your Majesty? When I decide. The Southern Lords grow restless, my king. They question whether the crown still controls the outer territories. There are whispers that perhaps Your Majesty's grip has... Ryven finally lifted his eyes. The room went silent. Has what, Varric? Varric's throat worked. No sound came out. Finish your sentence. Tell me what the Southern Lords whisper about my grip. I misspoke, Your Majesty. I only meant... You meant to tell me that fat merchants who have never held a blade believe they understand war better than I do. You meant to suggest that men who inherited their titles through bloodline rather than battle think they can question my authority. Ryven stood. walked around the table slowly. Nobles pressed themselves against the walls. Here is what you are going to do, Varric. You are going to ride south today. You are going to find the loudest of those whispering lords, and you are going to ask him if he would like to challenge me personally for the throne. Varric's face went white. Your Majesty, I cannot. Then hang him from the eastern gate until the rest remember who controls what. Do I make myself clear? Yes, Your Majesty. Ryven returned to his position at the head of the table. His voice dropped back to something almost conversational. Garen, continue. Garen moved the conversation forward because he understood when Ryven was 3 seconds from violence. He had seen that particular shade of cold settle into the king's eyes dozens of times. Usually right before someone stopped breathing. We captured survivors from the attack. 12 wounded. The healers have been working on them since they arrived. One of them might know where the rogue pack is hiding. Bring them to me. Your Majesty, they are barely conscious. The head healer suggests we wait until their conditions stabilize. Perhaps another day, or I did not ask what the healer suggests. I did not ask for medical opinions or strategic delays. I said bring them to me. Now. Garen bowed his head. At once, Your Majesty. The council dissolved. Nobles fled like rats sensing a flood. Within seconds, the throne room emptied except for Ryven and Garen. Garen approached carefully. His voice dropped low enough that only Ryven could hear. You are wound tighter than usual. Am I? You nearly killed Varric with your eyes alone. I have known you long enough to recognize when something is wrong. Nothing is wrong. Everything is exactly as it should be. Garen studied his face. 16 years gave him privileges other wolves did not have. He could question. Carefully. The nightmares are back. Raven's jaw tightened. They never left. Worse, though. Yes. How bad? Last night I dreamed I was drowning. Woke up with blood coming out of my nose and claw marks in the stone walls. You need to see the healers. I need to maintain control. The moment this court smells weakness, they will tear me apart. Garen opened his mouth to respond, but footsteps echoed from the eastern corridor. Guards were bringing the survivors, 12 soldiers on stretchers. Blood soaked through bandages. Burns covered exposed skin. One man was missing an arm. Another whimpered every time someone moved too close. They looked like what they were. Men who survived something they should not have. Ryven descended the throne steps slowly, each footfall deliberate. The kind of measured pace that made fear crawl up spines. The soldiers tried to straighten, tried to salute. Pain stopped most of them halfway. He walked past each stretcher, studied their wounds, memorized their faces. Let them see exactly who stood above them. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, almost gentle. Tell me who led the attack. A young soldier, barely 20 with a burn covering half his face, spoke first. His voice shook, but he met Ryven's eyes. Alpha Grace, Your Majesty. Grey Wolf. Massive. Easily 9 feet when shifted. He tore through our lines like we were nothing. We tried to hold formation, but he had 30 wolves with him, all rogues, all insane. Where is he now? We do not know. They vanished into the spine ridge before dawn. We tried to follow, but you ran instead. The young soldier's face crumpled. Yes, Your Majesty. Ryven crouched beside him, brought his face level with the soldiers, close enough that the boy could see every scar, every cold calculation happening behind those dark eyes. You are lying to me. The soldier's eyes went wide. I swear, Your Majesty, I do not. I can smell deception. It leaks from your skin like infection. You know something you are not telling me. You are protecting someone. Please, I do not know anything else. I swear on my pack. Ryven grabbed his throat. Not hard enough to kill, just hard enough to make breathing difficult. The soldier's hands clawed at Ryven's wrist, but he might as well have been trying to move a mountain. Your pack is dead. Grace killed them. The only reason you are still breathing is because I allow it. So I will ask one more time. Where is Grace hiding? The soldier choked. Tears streamed down his burned face. I do not know. Please, I am telling you the truth. Ryven released him. Stood. Turned to face the rest of the survivors. One of you knows where Grace is hiding. One of you watched him leave and said nothing because you think loyalty to a rogue alpha matters more than loyalty to your king. Silence filled the throne room like water filling a drowning man's lungs. Fine. Ryven drew the blade from his belt, short, brutal, designed for close combat and maximum pain. The steel caught torchlight and threw it back in sharp edges. I will start removing fingers until someone remembers. Your Majesty. The voice came from the back of the room. Female, calm, completely unafraid. Ryven turned. A woman stepped forward from behind the line of healers clustered near the western archway. She wore simple gray robes, no jewelry, no rank insignia. Her dark hair was tied back in a practical braid and her hands were still red from working on the wounded. But it was her eyes that stopped him cold. Silver, bright as moonlight, clear as winter sky. His wolf slammed into his ribcage so hard he nearly staggered. Mate! The word echoed through his skull like thunder. Mate, 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 mate. Every instinct he had spent his entire life controlling roared to the surface. His wolf wanted out, wanted to shift, wanted to claim her right there in front of the entire court. The bond snapped into place with such force that his vision blurred. He could smell her from across the room, herbs and clean linen and something underneath that was purely her. He locked it down with brutal force, slammed every door in his mind, chained his wolf behind walls of ice and iron will. His hands shook. He forced them still. The woman walked toward him without hesitation. No fear, no submission. She looked at him the same way she might look at any man asking stupid questions while people were dying. Cutting off fingers will not get you answers, she said. Her voice carried clear and level. It will just make them pass out from shock, and then you will have nothing but corpses and a reputation for torturing your own soldiers, which I imagine will make future recruitment challenging. The throne room went silent. Nobles who had been creeping back into the chamber froze. Guards reached for weapons. No one spoke to the Alpha King like that. No one. Ryven felt his control slipping. His wolf was screaming. His hands shook. Every part of him wanted to close the distance between them and bury his face in her neck and never let go. Instead, he forced his voice into something cold, dangerous. Who are you? Elira Voss, healer. I've been working on your soldiers for 3 days trying to keep them alive while your generals decide whether they are worth the resources. She gestured at the stretchers. Her movements were efficient, no wasted motion. These men were ambushed, outnumbered 3-1. They survived because they ran instead of dying pointlessly for your pride. If you want information, try asking instead of threatening. You might be surprised what terrified men will tell someone who does not have a blade in their hand. Ryven took a step closer. His wolf howled. You think I need advice from a healer on how to rule my kingdom? I think you need someone to remind you that fear only works until it does not. And right now, you are running out of time. Explain. The rogue Alpha is not hiding in the mountains waiting for you to find him. He is coming back. Tomorrow night, he told one of the wounded soldiers before leaving, wanted to make sure the message reached you. Why would he announce his attack? Elira met his gaze steadily. She did not flinch, did not look away. Because he wants you to come personally. He is challenging you, alpha to alpha. He thinks you have grown soft sitting on your throne. Thinks he can take your crown if he kills you in front of your own soldiers. And you believe him. I believe he is either suicidal or stupid, possibly both. But the wounded soldier believed him. Believed it enough that he was more afraid of what Grace would do to his family if he talked than what you would do to him if he stayed silent. She paused. That is why he lied to you, not out of loyalty to Grace, out of fear for the people he left behind. Ryven studied her face, looked for deception, found none. His wolf was still screaming. The bond thrummed between them like a living thing. He could feel her heartbeat, fast but steady, could sense her emotions. Not fear, concern, frustration, determination. She had no idea what she was to him, what she had just become. The most dangerous thing in his entire kingdom. He forced himself to turn away before he did something catastrophic. Garen, double the guard on the southern border. Send scouts into the Spine Ridge. I want eyes on every path leading out of those mountains. If Grace moves, I want to know before he takes a breath. Yes, Your Majesty, and prepare my armor. If this rogue wants a fight, he will get one. You intend to meet him personally. I intend to remind every wolf in this empire what happens when they challenge me. Ryven glanced back at Elira. His wolf screamed at him to say something, anything, to acknowledge what had just happened between them. He crushed the impulse. You saved these soldiers. I did my job. Then you are dismissed. She did not move immediately, just looked at him with those silver eyes like she could see straight through the armor into the broken thing underneath, like she recognized something in him that he had spent years hiding. Then she bowed, slight, perfunctory, the bare minimum required by protocol, and walked away. The moment she left the throne room, Ryven felt something inside him tear. His wolf thrashed, clawed, demanded he follow her. The bond pulled at him like a rope tied around his ribs. Every step she took away from him felt like nails dragging across his spine. He gripped the armrest of his throne hard enough to crack stone. Garen approached carefully. His voice was low, cautious. Your Majesty, are you... Get out. What? Everyone, out. Now. Your Majesty, we still have... I said, get out. The command came out as a growl, half human, half wolf. The throne room emptied in seconds. Nobles practically trampled each other, reaching the exits. Guards withdrew to positions outside the doors. Only Garen hesitated. Ryven looked at him. Really looked at him. Let him see the chaos barely contained behind his eyes. Go, Garen, please. The please did it. Garen had never heard that word from his king, not once in 16 years. He left. The doors closed. Ryven collapsed onto the throne and buried his face in his hands. His entire body shook. Sweat poured down his spine despite the cold. His wolf was tearing him apart from the inside, raging, howling, demanding he go after her. Mate. The bond had snapped into place the moment he saw her. Absolute. Undeniable. The kind of connection that only happened once in a lifetime if a wolf was lucky. And he could not have her. A king bound to a low-born healer would destroy everything. The noble houses would riot. They had spent decades positioning their daughters for a chance at the throne. Half the political alliances holding this empire together were built on the promise that Ryven would eventually choose a mate from one of the great houses. If he chose Elira, it would be a declaration of war against his own nobility. Enemy alphas would see weakness, would see a king ruled by emotion rather than strategy. They would strike within months, test his borders, challenge his authority, and the noble houses would help them. Better to have a strong rival on the throne than a weak king controlled by his mate bond. Ryven had spent his entire life sacrificing pieces of himself to keep this empire intact. He had killed cousins, executed childhood friends, sent thousands of soldiers to die in wars designed to expand territory he did not even need, all to maintain the illusion of absolute control. This would be no different. It had to be no different, even if it killed him. He stood, walked to the balcony overlooking the city. Nightfang Keep sat on a cliff above the capital. From here he could see everything: the market squares, the residential districts, the training grounds where young wolves learned to kill efficiently. Somewhere down there, Elira was probably still working, still saving people, still completely unaware that she had just become the most dangerous thing in his kingdom. Not because of her, because of him. Because the moment the noble houses learned the Alpha King had found his mate, they would use her as a weapon. Kidnap her. Threaten her. Force him into decisions that would weaken his rule. Or worse, they would demand he reject her publicly to prove his loyalty to the crown over his own instincts. His wolf snarled. Ryven slammed his fist into the stone railing. Once, twice, until his knuckles split and blood ran down his wrist. Pain helped. It always did. He heard footsteps behind him. Garen's. He recognized the gate. You should be resting, Garen said quietly. I should be doing a lot of things. Garen leaned against the wall, silent, waiting. He knew when to push and when to let silence do the work. Finally, Ryven spoke. The healer. What about her? She is my mate. Garen did not react, did not look surprised. He just nodded slowly like he had suspected as much. I saw the way you looked at her, like you were drowning, and she was air. Accurate? What will you do? Ryven turned to face his oldest friend, the only man alive who had earned the right to ask that question. What I always do. What the crown demands. You are going to reject her. I am going to destroy her before someone else does. Garen was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful, measured. You know what happens to wolves who reject their mates. I know. The bond does not disappear. It rots, turns septic, drives the wolf insane. I know. You could die. Better me than the Empire. Garen shook his head. I have followed you for 16 years, watched you make impossible decisions, seen you sacrifice everything for this crown. But this is different. This is not strategy. This is suicide. It is survival. If I claim her, the nobility will tear this kingdom apart. If I do nothing, someone will kill her to manipulate me. The only option is to cut the bond before it becomes a weapon someone can use against me. And if you are wrong, if there is another way, there is not. How do you know? Because I have spent my entire life looking for another way, and there never is. Power demands sacrifice, always. The only choice is who suffers, so you choose her. I choose the Empire, the same choice I have made every day since I took this throne. Garen was quiet. Then he said something that hit harder than any blade. Your father made that same choice. Chose the crown over your mother. Died alone. Miserable. Eaten alive by regret. My father died because he was weak, because he hesitated when he should have acted. No. He died because he spent so many years killing his own heart that there was nothing left to keep him alive. Ryven turned away. Get out, Garen. I am trying to save you. You cannot save me. No one can. Now get out before I forget we are friends. Garen left without another word. Ryven stood alone on the balcony as night fell over the capital. Somewhere below, Elira Voss had no idea that tomorrow would destroy both of them. And somewhere deep in the frozen mountains, something ancient stirred in the darkness. It could taste the bond, could feel it forming, growing stronger with every moment the Alpha King fought against it. The Hollow Wraith smiled. Soon, very soon, all that power, all that suffering, all of it would belong to the darkness. The summons came at dawn. Elira stood in the healing wing, wrapping clean bandages around a soldier's burned arm when a guard appeared in the doorway. Young, nervous, he could not look at her directly. The Alpha King requests your presence in the throne room. Immediately. Now. She did not argue, just washed her hands, tied her hair back, followed the guard through cold stone corridors that smelled like iron and old blood. Her chest ached. It had started last night, a strange pulling sensation beneath her ribs, like something was trying to claw its way out of her. She had assumed it was exhaustion. 3 days working on soldiers with minimal sleep. But it got worse when she entered the throne room yesterday. Worse when she looked at the Alpha King. And now it felt like her heart was trying to beat its way through her sternum to reach something. She knew what it was. She was not stupid. The bond. Her wolf recognized him before her brain caught up. Recognized him and decided he belonged to her. And now her entire body was screaming at her to go back, to find him, to complete what had started. But Elira had spent her entire life learning to ignore what her body wanted. Hunger, exhaustion, fear. This would be no different. The throne room was empty except for Ryven. He stood at the base of the dais in full armor. No crown, just the man and the weight he carried. His back was to her, but she could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands clenched and unclenched at his sides. Elira stopped 10 feet away, did not speak, just waited. He turned slowly. His eyes found hers and the bond flared so bright she nearly gasped. She felt his emotions crash into her like a wave. Pain, anger, desperation. And underneath it all, something that looked like terror. He was afraid. Of her. You summoned me, Your Majesty. His voice was rough, like he had not slept. You saved my soldiers. I told you. I did my job. No, you did more than that. You stood in front of me and told me I was wrong. You walked into my throne room while I was holding a blade and criticized my methods in front of my entire court. She met his gaze steadily. You were wrong. Most people would be executed for less. Most people are cowards. Ryven almost smiled. Almost. The expression died before it reached his eyes. You do not fear me. I do not fear anyone who bleeds the same way I do. He took a step closer. The bond pulled tighter. Do you know what you are to me? Elira's chest tightened. The ache spread through her ribs like fire. I know what you think I am. And what is that? A liability. a weakness, a weapon someone can use against you. Ryven stopped. She continued. Her voice stayed level even though her hands shook. You felt it the moment I walked into this room yesterday. So did I. The bond. The pull. But you are a king, and I am nobody. Low-born. No title. No political value. So you are going to do what kings do. You are going to choose the crown. How do you know that? Because I have been watching you for 3 days. I have seen how you look at your soldiers, your nobles, even your beta. You look at everyone like they are pieces on a board, resources to be used or discarded depending on whether they serve your empire. She stepped closer. The bond screamed at her to touch him. She ignored it. And right now, you're calculating whether I am worth the risk. Running scenarios in your head. War with the noble houses, assassination attempts, political instability. You are weighing my life against your kingdom and finding me wanting. Ryven's jaw tightened. A muscle jumped beneath his eye. You are wrong. Am I? Yes. You are not a risk. You are a weapon aimed at everything I have built. The noble houses will use you against me the moment they learn what you are. Enemy alphas will target you to weaken me. Every decision I make from this moment forward will be compromised because my wolf will prioritize you over strategy. He paused, took a breath. You are not worth the risk. You are the risk. Then reject me. The words hung in the air like a blade. Ryven stared at her. Something flickered in his eyes. Shock, maybe. Or hope. What? You heard me. If I am such a threat to your precious empire, reject me. Publicly. Make it clear to everyone that I mean nothing to you. Sever the bond before it becomes a problem. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. Do it now, and save us both the suffering. Ryven felt something crack inside his chest. His wolf was howling, raging, tearing at his control. The bond between them was so strong now he could barely think, could barely breathe. He wanted to close the distance, wanted to tell her she was wrong, that she mattered more than any crown or kingdom or title. But the throne room doors opened. Nobles flooded in. The morning court session. Dozens of wolves in formal attire spreading through the chamber like poison. They talked among themselves, laughed, discussed petty grievances and trade disputes. Lord Varric approached the dais. His eyes landed on Elira, and his expression curdled. Your Majesty, we have urgent matters to discuss regarding the southern territories. Why is there a healer in the throne room? Ryven looked at Elira, then at the nobles, then at the throne behind him, and he made his choice. She is no one, a healer, no one of consequence. Elira's expression did not change, but something in her eyes died. He felt it through the bond, felt her hope crumble, felt her lock something away deep inside herself where no one could reach it. It felt like watching someone bury themselves alive. Lord Varric sneered. Then why is she here? She was leaving. Ryven turned his back on her, forced himself to look at the maps spread across the strategy table, forced himself to ignore the bond screaming at him to turn around. Garen, escort the healer out. Garen stepped forward. His face was carefully blank, but his eyes were furious. Your Majesty. Now, Garen. Elira did not wait for an escort. She walked toward the exit on her own, spine straight, head high. Every inch of her radiating quiet dignity, even as the bond between them stretched and strained. But before she reached the doors, Ryven heard himself speak. Wait. She stopped. The entire court went silent. Ryven turned slowly. His wolf was screaming at him to stop, to take it back, to fix what he was about to break. He ignored it. You asked me to reject you publicly. Elira's hands clenched into fists. Her voice came out flat. Empty. Yes, so be it. Ryven descended the steps until he stood directly in front of her, close enough to see the pulse hammering in her throat, close enough to smell the fear she was trying to hide beneath layers of control, close enough to feel the bond thrumming between them, like a living thing desperate to complete itself. He forced his voice into something brutal, cold, the voice he used when ordering executions. I, Ryven Kaelor, Alpha King of Dravor, reject you, Elira Voss, as my mate. The bond screamed. You are nothing to me. Not pack, not kin, not even a memory worth keeping. You are a low-born healer with no value to this crown or this kingdom. He could feel the bond tearing, could feel his wolf clawing at him. Blood filled his mouth. I reject your wolf. I reject your bond. I reject everything you are and everything you could have been to me. The bond snapped. Pain exploded through his chest like a blade carving out his heart. His ribs felt like they were collapsing inward. His wolf howled so loud he thought his skull would crack. Elira stumbled, caught herself on nothing but will. Blood dripped from her nose, then her ears. But she did not cry, did not beg, did not show the court the devastation currently tearing her apart from the inside. She just looked at him with those silver eyes now empty of everything except truth, and whispered 5 words that would haunt him for the rest of his life. You will regret this, Ryven. Not a threat, a promise. Then she turned and walked out of the throne room without looking back. The moment the doors closed behind her, Ryven collapsed. His knees hit stone hard enough to crack it. Blood ran from his nose, his ears, his mouth. It poured from him like he was bleeding from the inside out, which he was. Nobles screamed. Garen caught him before he hit the ground completely, held him up even though Ryven could feel his beta shaking with barely contained rage. Get the healers, someone shouted. No, Garen growled. Get out, all of you, now. But your majesty. I said get out. The throne room emptied. Garen lowered Ryven to the ground carefully. His voice was quiet, furious. You stupid bastard. Ryven tried to speak. Blood filled his mouth. He choked on it. His wolf was dying. He could feel it. Feel pieces of himself shutting down, going dark. The bond had been severed, but it left behind wounds that might never heal. You just killed yourself, Garen said. You know that. You rejected your mate, and now the bond is going to rot inside you until there is nothing left but a monster. Ryven coughed, spat blood onto the pristine marble floor. Good. Good. That is all you have to say. Good. The Empire survives. That is all that matters. Garen laughed. It sounded like something breaking. The Empire. You think the Empire will survive this? You think you can rule anything when you can barely stand? I will survive. I always do. No, you will not, because I know what you just did. You did not just reject your mate. You fed something dark, something that has been waiting for exactly this kind of suffering. Riven's vision blurred. He could barely hear Garen anymore. The last thing he saw before consciousness left him was silver eyes filled with devastation. And somewhere deep in the frozen mountains, something ancient opened its eyes fully for the first time in centuries. The Hollow Wraith smiled, a rejected bond, an Alpha King destroying himself from the inside out, a mate bleeding alone in the darkness. All that pain, all that suffering, all that delicious emotional ruin, finally, after so long. It was free. Ryven woke 3 days later in his own bed. He knew it was 3 days because Garen told him. Told him while standing at the window with his back turned, like he could not bear to look at what his king had become. You stopped breathing twice, Garen said. His voice was flat, empty of the loyalty that usually lived there. The healers brought you back both times. They say your wolf is eating you from the inside out, that the rejection is killing you slower than a blade, but just as certain. Ryven tried to sit up. His body refused. Every muscle felt like it had been shredded. His chest was wrapped in bandages that smelled like herbs and desperation. How long? Until you die. Weeks, maybe. Months if you are unlucky. The bond does not forgive rejection. It rots, turns everything it touches into poison. Garen finally turned. His eyes were red. Whether from exhaustion or something else, Ryven could not tell. She left the capital the night you rejected her. No one has seen her since. The healers say she is probably dying too. That mates cannot survive separation after a bond that strong snaps. Good. The word came out before Ryven could stop it. Garen crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed Ryven by the throat, slammed him back against the headboard hard enough to crack wood. Good. You think it is good that you are both dying. You think sacrificing her makes you noble, makes you strong. His grip tightened. It makes you a coward, the worst kind, the kind who destroys everything beautiful because he is too afraid to protect it. Garen released him, stepped back. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet, deadly. I have followed you for 16 years, killed for you, bled for you, watched you make impossible choices and stood beside you through all of it. But this This I cannot follow. You are dismissed. No, I am done. There is a difference. Garen walked to the door, stopped with his hand on the wood. Your father made the same choice. Rejected his mate for the crown. You know what happened to him. You watched him die screaming, begging for her name, clawing at his own chest, trying to reach a bond that was already dead. He looked back one last time. You are becoming him, and I will not watch it happen again. Then he left. The door closed. Ryven lay in the silence and felt his wolf dying inside him. It was not dramatic, not the sudden violence of a blade, just a slow erosion, like watching stone wear away under rain, piece by piece, breath by breath. His wolf had been his strength, his anchor, the thing that made him more than human, more than breakable. Now it was killing him, and he had no one to blame but himself. This is what power looks like, he thought. This is what kings are made of, sacrifice and suffering and the slow death of everything soft. He almost believed it, almost. But late at night, when the pain got bad enough that even breathing felt like swallowing glass, he would remember Silver Eyes. Remember the way she looked at him in the throne room, not with hatred, not even with anger, with pity, like she knew exactly what he was doing to himself and could not stop him. The nightmares started on the fourth day. Ryven dreamed of Elira standing in snow, blood running from her nose, her mouth. She called his name, but no sound came out, just silence, just her lips forming the word over and over while darkness gathered around her ankles like rising water. He tried to reach her. His legs would not move. His arms would not lift. He could only watch as the darkness climbed higher. Her waist, her chest, her throat. She never looked away from him, not even when the darkness covered her mouth, not even when it pulled her under. He woke screaming. Blood poured from his nose, his ears. He had clawed gouges into the stone walls on either side of his bed, deep ones. His fingernails were torn, bleeding. The healers came running. An old woman named Morda, who had served 3 kings, pushed her way to his bedside. She took one look at him, and her expression went carefully blank. Your Majesty needs to rest. I am resting. No, you are dying. There is a difference. She mixed something in a wooden cup, held it to his lips. He drank because refusing took more energy than he had. The medicine tasted like ash and rot. How long? He asked. Morda was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that made his blood run cold. A rejected mate bond does not disappear, Your Majesty. It rots. And when an alpha destroys his own bond, the wolf destroys him in return. You have weeks, maybe less. The stronger the bond was, the faster the decay. Can it be stopped? Only one way. Find her. Beg her forgiveness. Remake the bond before it is too late. And if she refuses, then you both die. But at least you die knowing you tried. Ryven laughed. It came out wet, broken. I am the Alpha King. I do not beg. Then you will die a king, alone, in agony, while your empire collapses around you. She packed her supplies. I delivered you into this world, Your Majesty. I held you when you were hours old. I watched your father make the same mistake you are making now. Watched him rot from the inside out until there was nothing left but screaming and regret. She paused at the door. You are stronger than he was. You will last longer, suffer more. I hope the crown is worth it. Then she left him alone with his dying wolf, and the memory of Silver Eyes filled with devastation. The reports started arriving on the 7th day. Villages in the eastern territories were going dark. Entire packs disappearing overnight. The few survivors who made it to the capital told stories that made no sense. Shadow creatures, black smoke that moved like it was alive, wolves turning violent without warning, killing their own families. And in every report, one detail appeared again and again. A silver-eyed healer wandering from village to village, saving who she could, refusing to speak her name. Elira, alive, and walking straight into hell because of him. Ryven forced himself out of bed. His legs nearly buckled. Garen was gone. His beta had meant what he said. The only wolves left in the keep were guards too loyal or too stupid to abandon a dying king. He called for his armor. The servants who brought it looked terrified. They dressed him in silence. Buckled leather with shaking hands. The breastplate that used to fit perfectly now hung loose. He had lost weight, muscle. The strength that used to come as easy as breathing now required conscious effort. But he could still stand, still walk, still fight. That would have to be enough. He found Commander Vera in the war room. She was one of 3 wolves who had not fled, a scarred woman with gray in her black hair and eyes that had seen too many battles to be impressed by titles. She looked up when he entered, did not salute, just studied him like she was measuring a corpse. "You look like death." "Accurate assessment. You should be in bed. I should be doing a lot of things. Right now I need soldiers." 50. "The best you have. We ride for the Eastern Territories at dawn." "The Eastern Territories are cursed, Your Majesty. Every patrol sent there in the last week has disappeared. Whatever is happening out there, it is not something soldiers can fight." "Then we die trying. Gather the men." "Why?" "Because I said so." Vera stood, walked around the table until she was close enough that he could smell the leather oil on her armor. "No." "Tell me why. Why are we riding into a cursed wasteland? Why are you dragging dying soldiers into something that has already killed dozens?" "Give me one good reason." Ryven met her eyes. "Because she is out there. The healer." "Yes. The one you rejected in front of the entire court." "Yes." Vera was quiet for 3 breaths. Then she nodded once. 50 soldiers, dawn. But if this gets us all killed, I'm going to haunt you in the afterlife." "Understood." She turned to leave, stopped. "For what it is worth, Your Majesty, you made the wrong choice." "I know." "Good. At least you are not delusional on top of suicidal." They rode at dawn. 50 soldiers, no banners, no royal guard. Just wolves on horses moving fast through frozen forests toward something none of them understood. Ryven led from the front because he refused to ask anyone to face something he would not face himself. His body screamed at him with every mile. His chest felt like it was caving in. Blood leaked from his nose in a steady drip that he wiped away without comment. The soldiers noticed. They said nothing. Loyalty or fear? Ryven was not sure which. Did not care, as long as they followed. The Eastern Territories looked wrong. Trees that should have been green were black. Frost covered everything even though it was barely autumn. The air tasted like metal and rot. Animals were gone. No birds, no deer, not even insects. Just silence. The kind that made horses nervous and men reach for weapons. They found the first village on the second day. Empty. Doors hung open. Food still on tables. Fires burned down to ash. But no people. No bodies. Just absence. Vera dismounted. Walked through the main square with her hand on her sword. Her face was carefully blank, but Ryven could see the tension in her shoulders. Whatever happened here, it happened fast. No signs of struggle, no blood. It is like they all just vanished. Or ran, one of the soldiers said. From what? No one answered. They camped outside the village that night. Ryven refused to sleep inside buildings that felt like tombs. The soldiers built fires, set watches, spoke in whispers like they were afraid something might hear. Ryven sat apart from them, stared into the flames and felt his wolf clawing at his insides. The pain was getting worse, sharper, like broken glass grinding between his ribs. Vera sat down beside him without asking permission. You are dying faster than you should be. Yes. Why? Because the bond was strong, stronger than anything I have ever felt. When it snapped, it took pieces of me I cannot get back. Then why are we here? If she rejected you back, if she wants nothing to do with you, what is the point? I never said she rejected me. Vera turned to look at him fully. You rejected your mate one-sidedly. Yes. Without asking if that was what she wanted. She offered. She told me to do it, said it would save us both suffering. And you believed her. I believed the crown mattered more than what either of us wanted. Vera was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was soft, almost kind. You are an idiot. Probably. Definitely. You do not reject a mate because it is convenient. You do not throw away the one thing that might make you more than a weapon. You do not sacrifice love for power and call it strength. She stood. But since you already did, I suppose we might as well try to fix it before we all die out here. She walked back to the fires. Ryven sat alone and let her words sink in like poison. The truth was worse than she knew. He had not rejected Elira because he thought it was the right choice. He rejected her because he was terrified. Terrified of needing someone. Terrified of giving someone power over him. Terrified of becoming his father, who died screaming for a mate he threw away for a crown that meant nothing without her. Power had always been simple, clear. Win or lose, kill or be killed, conquer or be conquered. Love was chaos. Love was vulnerability. Love was handing someone a blade and trusting them not to use it. And Ryven had spent his entire life making sure no one ever got close enough to hold a blade to his throat. Until Elira. She had walked into his throne room and seen through him in seconds. Seen the fear, the weakness, the desperate loneliness he had been hiding behind brutality and control. And instead of using it against him, she had offered him mercy. She had asked him to reject her, had given him permission to choose the crown, had taken the choice away from him so he could tell himself it was strategy instead of cowardice. But it was cowardice. All of it. And now they were both dying because he had been too afraid to choose her. The nightmares came again that night. Worse this time. He dreamed of Elira standing in a ruined monastery, blood pouring from her eyes, her mouth. She looked at him and whispered words he could not hear. The darkness gathered around her like living smoke. It climbed her legs, her arms, wrapped around her throat like a noose. She reached for him. He could not move, could not speak, could only watch as the darkness pulled her apart piece by piece while she mouthed his name. He woke to Vera shaking him. Your Majesty, Your Majesty, wake up. He gasped. Blood poured from his nose. He had torn through his bandages. Fresh wounds crossed his chest. Self-inflicted, clawed open in his sleep. Vera looked at the damage and her face went pale. We need to move faster. Agreed. They found the plague on the third day. A village that was not empty. A village full of wolves who had gone completely insane. They attacked on sight. No warning, no reason, just violence. Their eyes were black, pupilless, like something else was looking out from behind them. The soldiers fought back, cut them down. But it felt wrong, felt like murder instead of battle. Vera killed a young wolf, maybe 16. He came at her with a knife and she put her sword through his chest because she had no choice. He died still trying to reach her, still trying to kill. She cleaned her blade in silence. This is not a plague, she said. This is corruption. What kind? The old kind. The kind from stories, shadow magic, forbidden for centuries. You think someone is doing this intentionally. I think something woke up, something that should have stayed buried. They moved faster after that. Pushed the horses, skipped sleep. The corruption was spreading. Each village they passed was worse than the last. More bodies, more madness, more black smoke hanging in the air like oil, and always, always, rumors of a silver-eyed healer walking through the worst of it, saving who she could, taking the corruption into herself to protect others. Ryven felt his wolf howl. She was killing herself. Healing infected wolves one at a time and absorbing the poison because that was who she was. Someone who gave everything and asked nothing in return. Someone who deserved better than a king too broken to protect her. They found her on the 5th day. The monastery was half collapsed, ancient stone crumbling under its own weight. It sat on a cliff overlooking the Frostmourne Valley like a monument to forgotten suffering. Smoke rose from the ruins. Black, oily, wrong. Ryven dismounted before his horse fully stopped. His legs nearly gave out. He caught himself on stone, forced himself forward. Vera grabbed his arm. Your Majesty, we do not know what is in there. I know what is in there. And if it is a trap, then it is a trap. I'm going in anyway. She released him, signaled the soldiers to form a perimeter. Ryven walked into the ruins alone. The interior was worse than the exterior. Holes in the ceiling let in weak sunlight. Vines crawled over collapsed pillars. And in the center, in what used to be the main sanctuary, he found her. Elira, lying on a makeshift bed, dying. Her skin was gray. Black veins crawled up her arms like infection. Blood crusted around her nose and mouth. Her breathing was shallow, wet, but she was alive. Barely. Ryven crossed the space between them, fell to his knees beside her bed. His hands shook as he reached for her. The moment he touched her, her eyes opened. Silver. Still silver despite everything. She looked at him without surprise, without hope, just tired recognition. You came too late, she whispered. Her voice was destroyed, raw from screaming or crying or both. No. Yes. The corruption is inside me. I have been taking it from infected wolves for weeks. Thought I could contain it. Thought I was strong enough. She coughed. Blood flecked her lips. I was wrong. Ryven felt something break inside him. Not the bond. That was already broken. Something deeper. Something that had been holding him together through sheer will. He collapsed beside her bed, grabbed her hands. They were cold. Too cold. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I should never have rejected you. Should never have chosen the crown. Should never have been such a coward. The words poured out. Unfiltered. Raw. I was afraid. Afraid of needing you. Afraid of giving you power over me. Afraid of becoming my father who died alone because he threw away his mate for a kingdom that meant nothing without her. He looked at her. Let her see everything he had spent his life hiding. I thought loving you would destroy my empire. I was wrong. Loving you would have saved me from becoming this. From becoming a monster so afraid of weakness that I destroyed the only good thing I ever had. Elira's eyes filled with tears. They ran down her gray cheeks and left clean tracks through the blood. You came, she whispered. I came too late. No. You came. That matters. It does not matter if you die. She smiled, sad, broken. I am already dead, Ryven. The corruption is too deep. I can feel it eating me, can feel myself disappearing piece by piece. Then I will stay. I will stay here with you until the end. You cannot. Your kingdom. My kingdom can burn. None of it matters beside you. He pressed his forehead against her hand. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I should have chosen you from the beginning. Elira touched his face with fingers that barely had strength to move. I forgive you. 3 words. Simple. Devastating. Ryven felt something inside him shatter completely. Not his pride, not his control. Something older, deeper. The wall he had spent his entire life building between himself and anything that could hurt him. It crumbled. And for the first time since he was a child, Ryven Kaelor cried. Not the silent tears of a man trying to maintain dignity. Full, broken sobs that shook his entire body. He cried for what he had done, for what he had lost, for the empire he had fed everything to only to realize too late that it had never been worth the cost. Elira ran her fingers through his hair, gentle, forgiving. Outside, something roared. The sound was not natural, not animal. It was rage and hunger and ancient malice given voice. Vera appeared in the doorway. Her sword was drawn. Her face was pale. Your Majesty, we need to leave. Now. What is it? I do not know, but it is coming, and it is massive. Ryven stood. His body protested. He ignored it. Get the soldiers out. Fall back to the horses. Get as far from here as you can. What about you? I am staying. Your Majesty, that is an order, Commander. Vera looked at Elira, at Ryven, at the determination in his eyes that said he would not be moved. Then she saluted. It has been an honor serving you, my king. The honor was mine. She left. Ryven turned back to Elira, knelt beside her bed again. Whatever is coming, I am not leaving you to face it alone. She tried to sit up. Could not. Her body would not respond anymore. You need to go, Ryven. You need to survive. The kingdom needs nothing more than I have already given it. I spent my entire life sacrificing for the crown, my humanity, my capacity for love. You. He took her hand. I am done sacrificing. If we die here, at least we die together. Outside, the roaring got louder, closer. The monastery walls shook. Elira's eyes went wide. Oh no. What? It is not random. The plague, the corruption, the village is going dark. It was never a disease? Then what is it? She looked at him with eyes full of terrible understanding. It is the Hollow Wraith, an ancient force buried beneath the Eastern Territories centuries ago. It feeds on emotional ruin, on grief, on broken bonds. Her voice broke. Your rejection woke it up. The moment you severed our bond in front of your entire court, you fed it enough power to break free. And now it wants its reward. What reward? Me. It wants my soul. And if it gets it, the corruption will spread across the entire kingdom. Nothing will stop it. Everyone will die. Ryven stood. His wolf stirred. Dying, but not dead. Not yet. Then it will have to go through me first. You cannot fight it. You can barely stand. He drew the blade from his belt. It felt heavy. Unfamiliar. Like his body had forgotten how to hold a weapon. I have been fighting my entire life. This will be no different. Ryven. He looked at her one last time. I love you. I should have said it in the throne room. Should have said it the moment I saw you. But I was afraid. I am not afraid anymore. The monastery door exploded inward. Darkness poured through the opening like oil. It moved wrong, flowed upward instead of down, gathered in the center of the sanctuary, and began to take shape. The hollow wraith rose before them. Massive, vaguely humanoid, made entirely of shadow and rage and centuries of accumulated suffering. Its eyes were voids. Its mouth was a chasm. It radiated hunger so intense that Ryven felt it in his bones. The creature looked at Elira. Then it smiled, and reached for her with hands made of living darkness. Ryven threw himself between them. The darkness hit him like a collapsing mountain. Pain exploded through every nerve. The corruption tried to force its way inside him, tried to eat him the same way it had eaten countless others. But Ryven was not others. He was the Alpha King, and he had spent his entire life learning how to survive things that should have killed him. He roared. His wolf surged to the surface, dying but defiant. It tore through his skin in a shift so violent it should have killed him. Black fur, yellow eyes, massive even in his weakened state. The hollow wraith hesitated. Just for a second. It was enough. Ryven lunged, his jaws closed around Shadow. It tasted like rot and despair and every mistake he had ever made. He bit down anyway, tore, ripped, fought with everything he had left. The creature screamed. The sound shattered what remained of the monastery windows. Cracks spread through stone. The ceiling began to collapse. But Ryven did not stop. Could not stop. Because behind him, Elira was sitting up. Her gray skin was glowing. Silver light poured from her hands, from her eyes. She was whispering something. Words in a language Ryven did not recognize. Ancient words. Healing words. The light spread across the sanctuary floor, touched his paws, surged up his legs. And the dying bond between them suddenly flared back to life. Not broken, not severed. Waiting. Waiting for them to fight for it. Ryven felt power explode through his body. Not his power. Not hers. Theirs. Combined. Merged. The kind of strength that only came when two souls chose each other despite impossible odds. The hollow wraith realized what was happening. It lunged for Elira with everything it had. Ryven met it mid-strike. Wolf and Shadow collided. The impact sent shockwaves through the valley. Trees bent. Stone cracked. The sky above them split with lightning that had no storm to birth it. They fought. Not with strategy, not with skill, with pure desperation, with the knowledge that if either of them fell, the other would follow. The hollow wraith was ancient, powerful, fed by centuries of suffering. But Ryven and Elira were something it had never faced before. A rejected bond that refused to die. A mate who walked through hell to reach the person who hurt her. An alpha who finally learned that strength was not surviving alone. It was choosing someone else over yourself. The battle lasted hours or seconds. Ryven could not tell. Time moved wrong in the presence of the wraith, stretched, compressed, folded in on itself. But eventually the creature made a mistake. It went for Elira one more time, and Ryven was waiting. He caught the shadow hand in his jaws, bit down with everything he had, felt his teeth sink into something that should not be solid. Behind him, Elira screamed. Silver light exploded from her body. It surged forward, wrapped around Ryven, around the wraith, around everything. The bond completed fully. No rejection, no severance, no walls between them. Just connection, pure, absolute, undeniable. The hollow wraith howled. The silver light burned through it like acid, tore pieces away, dissolved Shadow into nothing. It tried to flee. Ryven would not let it. He held on, bit down harder. Let the light flow through him into the creature. Let it burn them both, if that was what it took. The wraith disintegrated, piece by piece, scream by scream, until nothing remained but silence. Ryven collapsed, shifted back to human form without meaning to. Blood poured from dozens of wounds he did not remember receiving. His chest felt like it had been hollowed out. But the bond was whole. He could feel Elira, feel her heartbeat sinking with his, feel her emotions flooding through him. Relief, love, exhaustion. She crawled to him across the shattered monastery floor, collapsed beside him. They lay there in the ruins, breathing in sync. "I thought we were going to die," she whispered. "We still might." She laughed. It sounded broken, beautiful. Was it worth it? Ryven turned his head to look at her. Silver eyes met his, still bright despite everything. "Every lifetime," he said. Then everything went dark. Ryven woke to the sound of steel scraping stone. His eyes opened slowly. Everything hurt. Not the sharp pain of fresh wounds, but the deep ache of a body that had been pushed past its limits and forced to keep moving anyway. He was still in the monastery. Sunlight filtered through the collapsed ceiling in dusty shafts. The air smelled like ash and blood and something else. Something clean. Herbs. He turned his head. Elira sat beside him. Awake. Her skin was still pale, but the gray had faded. The black veins crawling up her arms were gone. She was wrapping bandages around his chest with steady hands. "You are alive," he said. His voice was gravel. "So are you." "Barely." "How long?" 2 days. You stopped breathing 3 times. I brought you back each time." She did not look at him while she worked, just focused on the bandages, on the wounds, on anything except his eyes. Something was wrong. Ryven tried to sit up. His body screamed in protest. Elira pushed him back down with one hand. "Do not move. You tore something inside when you shifted. If you push too hard, you will bleed out before I can stop it." "Where are the soldiers?" "Gone. Commander Vera took them back to the capital 2 days ago. I told her you needed time to heal. She did not want to leave, but I convinced her." "How?" "I told her you ordered it. She believed me because you are the kind of king who gives orders even when dying." There was something sharp in her voice, something that cut deeper than any blade. Ryven studied her face, really looked at her for the first time since waking. She would not meet his eyes. Her hand shook slightly as she tied off the bandage. And beneath the exhaustion, beneath the relief of survival, he saw something that made his chest tighten. Fear. Not of him. Of what came next. "Elira," he said quietly. "Do not. We need to talk about—" I said, "Do not. Not yet. You need to heal first, then we can talk about whatever you think we need to talk about." She stood, gathered her supplies, started to walk away. Ryven caught her wrist. The bond flared between them. He felt her emotions flood through. Fear, anger, confusion. And underneath it all, love so deep it hurt, but also doubt. She pulled free gently. "Rest, Ryven. That is all you need to do right now. Just rest." Then she left him alone in the ruins with questions he could not answer, and a bond that suddenly felt fragile in ways it should not. This is what happens, he thought, when you destroy something and expect it to heal without scars. This is what happens when you reject someone and think forgiveness erases the wound. The bond was whole, but the trust was shattered. And trust, Ryven was learning, was harder to rebuild than any empire. He slept, dreamed, not nightmares this time, memories. His father standing in the throne room, blood running from his nose, screaming a name over and over until his voice broke, until guards had to restrain him, until he collapsed and never woke up. His mother leaving in the middle of the night. No goodbye, just absence. He had been 7, had watched from his window as her carriage disappeared into darkness. Garen's face when Ryven rejected Elira. The way his oldest friend looked at him like he was watching someone drown and could not reach them. Elira's eyes in the throne room, silver and devastated and full of a pity that cut deeper than hatred ever could. "You will regret this, Ryven." He woke gasping. Night had fallen. Elira sat by a small fire near the monastery entrance. She was cooking something that smelled like meat and herbs. Her back was to him. Ryven forced himself to sit up. The movement sent lightning through his ribs. He bit back a groan. "You should not be moving," Elira said without turning around. "I have spent 2 days doing nothing but moving blood in and out of my lungs. I think I can manage sitting." She did not respond, just kept stirring whatever was in the pot. Ryven watched her, studied the set of her shoulders, the way she held herself carefully, like she was bracing for impact. The silence stretched. Finally, he broke it. "You are afraid of me?" "No. You are afraid of something. I'm afraid of this. Of what happens now. Of what we are supposed to do with a bond that was rejected and remade under the worst circumstances possible." She finally turned to look at him. "You rejected me in front of your entire court, Ryven. You called me nothing. You severed our bond because you were afraid of what it would cost you. And yes, you came for me. Yes, you fought beside me. Yes, you chose me in the end." Her voice cracked. "But that does not erase what you did. It does not erase the fact that when it mattered, when you had to choose between me and your crown, you chose wrong. And I need to know that if you are ever faced with that choice again, you will not do the same thing." "I will not." "How do I know that?" "Because I'm telling you. Words. Ryven. Just words. You are a king. Kings say what they need to say to survive. How do I know you are not doing that now? How do I know the moment we return to the capital, the moment your nobles start pressuring you, you will not decide I am a liability again?" She stood, crossed her arms. "How do I know you will not break me twice?" The question hung between them like a blade. Ryven had no answer, because she was right. Words were easy. Anyone could say they had changed, could promise they would do better next time, but promises meant nothing without proof, and the only proof he had was a rejection that had nearly killed them both. "I cannot give you certainty," he said finally. "I cannot promise I will never make another mistake. I spent 30 years learning to be a king, learning to sacrifice and calculate and choose the empire over everything else. That is not going to disappear because I finally made the right choice once. Then, what can you give me? Time, patience, and the knowledge that I will spend every day trying to be better than I was in that throne room." He met her eyes. "I love you, Elira. I should have said it first, should have said it louder, should have fought for you instead of against you. But I am saying it now, and I will keep saying it until you believe it." She looked at him for a long moment. Her expression was unreadable. Then she nodded once. Okay. But when we go back to the capital, things are going to change. I am not going to stand beside you quietly while nobles treat me like a mistake. I'm not going to smile and pretend your court does not despise me, and I'm not going to let you sacrifice me again if it becomes convenient. Understood. Good. She turned back to the fire. Ryven let out a breath he did not know he was holding. It was not forgiveness. Not really. But it was a chance. And right now, a chance was more than he deserved. They left the monastery 3 days later. Ryven could walk without bleeding, could breathe without feeling like his lungs were full of glass. The bond between them was stable, strong even. But there was a carefulness to it now, a hesitation that had not been there before. They rode double on the horse Elira had kept, moved slowly through the eastern territories. The corruption was gone. The villages were still empty, but the black smoke had lifted. The trees were green again. Animals had returned. The hollow wraith was dead, but the scars it left behind would take years to heal, if they ever did. They reached the capital on the 8th day. The city looked different somehow. Smaller, less impressive. Like Ryven had spent so long seeing it as the center of the world that he had forgotten it was just stone and wood, and people trying to survive. Guards at the gate recognized him immediately. They saluted, stared, whispered to each other as he rode past. The Alpha King had left dying and returned whole. With the healer he had rejected beside him. Rumors would spread like wildfire. Nightfang Keep loomed above them, dark, imposing. The obsidian fortress that had been his home and his prison for 7 years. Ryven felt his chest tighten. This was where it had happened, where he had destroyed her in front of everyone, where he had chosen wrong and nearly lost everything because of it. Returning felt like walking back into a tomb. Elira must have felt his tension through the bond because she reached back and squeezed his hand once. Brief, reassuring. He squeezed back. They could do this. They had survived worse. The throne room was full when they entered. Nobles, generals, advisors, every important wolf in the kingdom packed into the chamber like they had been waiting. And standing at the head of them all, arms crossed and expression cold, was Garen. He had come back. Ryven felt relief flood through him. His beta was here, his oldest friend, the one person who had always stood beside him even when he made catastrophic decisions. But something was wrong. Garen was not smiling, was not relieved. He was furious. "Your Majesty," Garen said, his voice carried across the chamber. Cold, formal. "We had heard you were dead. The rumors were exaggerated. Clearly." Garen stepped forward. The nobles parted for him like water. "You abandoned your kingdom. Rode into cursed territory with no warning. Left the capital without leadership for nearly 2 weeks. Do you have any idea what that did? The panic, the instability, the nobles circling like sharks thinking the throne was empty. I had no choice. You always have a choice. You chose her." He pointed at Elira without looking at her. "You chose the healer who you rejected in this very room. Chose her over your duty, over your kingdom, over everything you swore to protect when you took that crown." Ryven felt ice slide down his spine. This was not anger about him leaving. This was something else. "Garen, what is this? This is me doing what you cannot. Making the hard choice, the choice a real king would make." "What are you talking about?" Garen finally looked at Elira, really looked at her, and the hatred in his eyes was pure. "She is a threat. The moment you claimed her, you became vulnerable, weak. The nobles know it. The enemy alphas know it. Everyone knows that the great alpha king can be controlled through his mate. She is not a threat. She saved me. She made you soft. Made you abandon your kingdom for sentiment, and that cannot stand." Garen gestured. Guards stepped forward from the shadows. 12 of them, swords drawn. "Wait," Ryven said. His voice was sharp, dangerous. "What are you doing?" "What I should have done weeks ago, removing the liability before it destroys everything. You're going to kill her." "No, I'm going to make you choose, again, the right way this time." Garen walked to the throne, sat down, like he belonged there. Reject her, right here, right now, in front of everyone. Sever the bond permanently. Prove to this kingdom that you are still capable of putting the crown first. He leaned forward. Or refuse. And watch me execute her for treason against the throne. Your choice, my king. The throne room went silent. Nobles watched with hungry eyes. Guards waited for orders. Elira stood beside Ryven, frozen, her face pale. Ryven felt the world tilt. This was betrayal. Not from enemies. From the man he trusted most. "Why?" Ryven said. His voice was barely a whisper. "Why are you doing this?" Garen's expression did not change. "Because I love you. Because I have spent 16 years keeping you alive, keeping you strong, and I will not watch you destroy yourself over a woman the way your father did. So you are going to force me to choose. I am going to force you to be the king this empire needs. The king you were before she walked into your life and made you weak." "I am not weak. You rode into a cursed wasteland for her. You nearly died for her. You would burn this entire kingdom to the ground if it meant keeping her safe. That is not strength. That is obsession. It is love. Love is weakness. No, fear is weakness. And you are terrified. Terrified that if I have someone I care about more than the throne, I will not need you anymore." Garen's jaw tightened. "Choose, Ryven. Her or the crown. You cannot have both." This is what betrayal looks like, Ryven thought. Not the grand declarations or dramatic confrontations. Just a friend who decided he knew better. Who decided that love was a disease that needed to be cut out before it spread. And the worst part was understanding why. Garen was not wrong to be afraid. Ryven had changed. Had become someone who would prioritize Elira over strategy, over politics, over the cold calculations that kept empires running. But he was not wrong to change. He was wrong to be what he was before. A weapon, a tool, a king so afraid of weakness that he had forgotten what it meant to be human. Ryven looked at Elira. She was shaking, trying to hide it, trying to be strong, but he could feel her terror through the bond, feel her preparing for him to choose wrong again. He looked at Garen, at the man who had saved his life 4 times, who had stood beside him through wars and executions and impossible decisions, who had been more than a beta, more than a friend, almost a brother, and Ryven made his choice. He drew the blade from his belt. Garen smiled. Good. Do it. Reject her. Prove you are still the king I remember. Ryven walked forward slowly. Nobles held their breath. Guards tightened their grips on their weapons. Elira closed her eyes. Ryven reached Garen, looked down at him sitting on the throne like he belonged there, and pressed the blade against his beta's throat. I choose her, Ryven said quietly, every time, every lifetime, without hesitation. Garen's eyes went wide. What are you doing? I am making the choice you gave me, and if that means I lose the throne, if that means the nobles riot, if that means enemy alphas invade tomorrow, I do not care. I am done sacrificing the people I love for a crown that has taken everything from me. He pressed the blade harder. Not enough to cut, just enough to make his point clear. You were wrong, Garen. Love is not weakness. Fear is. And I have been afraid for so long that I forgot what strength actually looks like. He stepped back. It looks like choosing someone even when the world tells you not to. It looks like fighting for something that cannot be measured in territory or power. It looks like being vulnerable enough to admit you need someone. Ryven turned to face the court. I am not the king you remember. I am not the weapon you relied on. I am not going to sacrifice my mate to prove my loyalty to an empire built on fear and brutality. His voice carried through the chamber. Strong, certain. So if you cannot accept that, if you need a king who puts the crown above everything else, then find someone else. Because I am done. He held out his hand to Elira. She stared at him. Tears ran down her face. Then she took his hand. The moment their fingers touched, the bond flared so bright Ryven felt it in his bones. Power surged between them. Not dominance, not control, partnership, balance. The kind of strength that came from two people choosing each other despite impossible odds. And every wolf in that throne room felt it, felt the bond complete fully, felt the power that came with it. Power that did not come from fear or conquest or brutality. Power that came from trust. Garen stood slowly. His hand was on his sword. You would choose her over everything. Yes. Over your kingdom. Yes. Over me. Ryven met his eyes. Let him see the truth there. Yes. Garen's face twisted. Something broke behind his eyes. Then you are not the king I swore to serve. He drew his sword. The guards moved forward, and Ryven knew with absolute certainty that this was going to end in blood. But before anyone could move, the throne room doors exploded inward. Commander Vera strode through with 50 soldiers behind her, all of them armed, all of them loyal. She walked straight to Ryven, saluted. Apologies for the delay, Your Majesty. We ran into some complications on the road. She turned to face Garen. I believe you are sitting in the wrong chair, Commander. Garen looked at the soldiers, at Vera, at Ryven. You planned this? No, Vera said. I planned this. Because unlike you, I actually understand what strength looks like. And it does not look like a man forcing his king to reject his mate out of fear. She gestured. Her soldiers spread through the throne room, surrounded the guards loyal to Garen. Stand down, all of you. This is over. Garen looked around, calculating, measuring odds. Then he lowered his sword. This is not over, he said. His voice was cold, empty. The nobles will never accept her. The enemy alphas will use her against you. You have made yourself weak, and you are too blind to see it. Maybe, Ryven said, but at least I will die knowing I chose right. Garen stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned and walked out. No one stopped him. The throne room was silent. Ryven looked at the nobles, at the guards, at the throne that had cost him everything. And he made one final choice. He walked to the throne, placed his hand on the obsidian armrest. Then he turned his back on it, walked to Elira, took her hand, and walked out of the throne room without looking back. Behind him, chaos erupted. Nobles shouted. Guards moved. Vera barked orders. But Ryven did not care. For the first time in 7 years, he was walking away from the throne instead of toward it, and it felt like freedom. They made it to the eastern tower before Elira stopped him. She turned, pressed her hands against his chest, looked up at him with eyes full of questions. What did you just do? I chose you. You gave up the throne. No, I gave up a crown that was killing me. There is a difference. The nobles will riot. They will declare you unfit. They will let them. I am done playing their games, done sacrificing for an empire that demands everything and gives nothing back. He cupped her face. I spent 7 years thinking the crown was what made me strong, thinking that power came from isolation and fear and cold calculation. But I was wrong. The strongest thing I have ever done was kneel in that monastery and beg your forgiveness. Tears ran down her cheeks. What happens now? Now we leave. Tonight, we ride east and we do not look back. We rebuild the villages destroyed by the plague. We help the people the empire abandoned. We make something new, together. Yes. What about the kingdom? The kingdom will survive. It always does. Vera is smart, strong. She will hold it together until someone worthy takes the throne, someone who can lead without destroying themselves in the process. Elira searched his face. You're serious. You're actually walking away. I am running away. With you. And I am not looking back. She laughed. It sounded broken and beautiful. What about Garen? Garen made his choice. He chose the crown over our friendship. I cannot blame him for that. I would have done the same thing a month ago. But not anymore. No, not anymore. Ryven kissed her, deep, desperate, full of promise. When they broke apart, she was smiling. We should go before they try to stop us. Agreed. They made it 3 steps before Vera found them. She stood in the corridor with her arms crossed and an expression that was equal parts exasperation and respect. You are leaving. Yes. Good. The throne is poison. Has been for years. You were smart to walk away. Then why are you stopping us? I am not stopping you. I am giving you this. She held out a sealed letter. It is a writ of abdication, signed by every noble house that does not want civil war. You give up your claim to the throne. They leave you alone. You get to disappear, and the kingdom gets to pretend this never happened. Ryven took the letter, broke the seal. Read it. It was exactly what she said. Freedom. For the price of everything he had spent his life building. He signed it without hesitation. Vera took the letter back, studied his face. You are making the right choice. I know. The kingdom will miss you. The kingdom will forget me. Kings are temporary. Empires survive. She almost smiled. Where will you go? East. Into the territories no one wants. We will rebuild what the corruption destroyed. And if enemies follow, then we fight. Together. Vera nodded once. Good luck, Ryven Kaelor, former Alpha King. Try not to die in the wilderness. I will do my best. She turned to leave. Stopped. For what it is worth, you were a better king than your father, and you will be an even better man now that you are not one. Then she was gone. Ryven and Elira left Nightfang Keep before dawn. No guards, no banners, no royal procession. Just 2 people on horses riding toward a horizon that held no promises except the ones they made to each other. Behind them, the capital erupted into chaos. Nobles fought over succession. Garen disappeared into the northern territories. Vera held the peace through sheer force of will and strategic executions. The empire survived. It always did. But Ryven was not there to see it. He was building something better. Something that did not require him to destroy pieces of himself to keep it standing. He was building a life. With the woman who had seen him at his worst and chosen him anyway. With the mate he had rejected and fought hell to reclaim. With Elira. And for the first time since he was 7 years old, watching his mother's carriage disappear into darkness, Ryven Kaelor was happy. Not because he had power, not because he had conquered, but because he had finally learned that some things were worth more than empires, and love was the most valuable of them all. They had 3 weeks of peace, 3 weeks of rebuilding burned villages in the eastern territories, 3 weeks of waking up beside each other without the weight of a crown crushing the air from Ryven's lungs. 3 weeks of something that almost felt like happiness. Then Garen came for them. The attack happened at dawn. Ryven woke to the sound of horses. Too many horses. He was on his feet before his eyes fully opened, instinct older than thought pulling him from sleep into combat readiness. Elira was already awake, standing by the window of the small cabin they had claimed in the ruins of a village called Thornhaven. Her face was pale. How many? Ryven asked. She did not answer, just pointed. Ryven crossed to the window and felt ice flood his veins. 200 soldiers, maybe more. They surrounded the village in formation, professional, disciplined. The kind of military precision that only came from years of training under a commander who knew exactly what he was doing. And standing at the front, mounted on a black warhorse, was Garen. He was not alone. Lord Varric sat beside him. And beside Varric, a dozen other nobles from the capital. The ones who had watched Ryven reject Elira. The ones who had smiled while she bled. The ones who had been circling the throne like vultures waiting for the king to show weakness. They had found their weakness, and now they were here to eliminate it. This is what happens when you choose love over power, Ryven thought. This is what happens when you walk away from the throne thinking you can just disappear. Power does not forgive abandonment. It hunts you down and destroys you for the crime of believing you were free. Get dressed, Ryven said quietly. We need to move. Where? They have us surrounded. Then we fight our way out. Ryven, there are 200 of them, and 2 of us. I know. He grabbed his sword, the blade he had carried for 7 years, the weapon that had carved an empire from frozen mountains and black water. It felt heavier than he remembered, or maybe he was just tired of carrying it. Stay behind me. No matter what happens, stay behind me. I am not hiding while you... You are not a soldier. I am. Let me do what I was trained to do. And what is that? Survive. He moved toward the door, stopped, turned back. If I fall, you run. You do not stop. You do not look back. You run east into the mountains and you disappear. I am not leaving you. Yes, you are. Because if they kill me and capture you, they will use you to legitimize whoever takes the throne next. They will force you into a bond with some noble's son and parade you around as proof that even rejected mates can be claimed if you break them enough. Her face went white. So if I fall, you run. Promise me. Elira looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded once. I promise. She was lying. He could feel it through the bond. Feel her determination, her absolute refusal to abandon him. Good, he said anyway. Then he opened the door and walked out to face the army that had come to kill him. Garen dismounted when he saw Ryven. Walked forward slowly. Stopped 20 feet away. They stared at each other across dirt and ash and the ruins of friendship. You should have stayed hidden, Garen said. His voice was flat, empty. The voice of a man who had already made his choice and locked away everything soft to see it through. I was never hiding. No. You were pretending. Pretending you could walk away. Pretending the crown would let you go. Pretending that love was enough to protect you from the consequences of abandoning your kingdom. Garen gestured at the soldiers behind him. The nobles voted unanimously. You are a traitor to the throne. The punishment for treason is death. I abdicated. I signed the writ. I gave up my claim. You do not get to give up. Not when you are the Alpha King. Not when your bloodline is the only thing holding this empire together. Not when half the kingdom is on the verge of civil war because you decided a healer mattered more than stability. This is not about the kingdom. This is about you. Garen's jaw tightened. You are right. This is about me. About watching you destroy yourself the same way your father did. About refusing to stand by while you throw away everything we built together for a woman who will make you weak. She does not make me weak. Then prove it. Fight me. Right here, right now. Alpha to alpha. If you win, I will take my soldiers and leave. If I win, she dies and you come back to the capital in chains. Ryven felt his wolf stir. Angry. Hungry. It had been weeks since he fought. Weeks since he let the beast out. And if I refuse, then my soldiers kill everyone in this village. Every man. Every woman. Every child you have been protecting. I will burn this place to the ground and hunt you across the eastern territories until there is nowhere left to run. You would slaughter innocents to get to me. I would do whatever it takes to save you from yourself. This is the cost of love in a world built on power, Ryven thought. This is what happens when you show mercy, when you choose compassion over cruelty. The world does not reward weakness, it punishes it. And kindness is the most dangerous weakness of all. He had known this moment would come. Had known the moment he walked away from the throne that someone would come to drag him back. But he had hoped it would not be Garen, had hoped his oldest friend would understand. But understanding was a luxury men like them could not afford. Fine, Ryven said. I accept. No. Elira stepped out of the cabin, walked to Ryven's side. Her face was set. You do not get to decide this alone. Go back inside. No. Elira, please. I said no. She turned to face Garen. Her voice carried across the village square. Clear, strong, unafraid. You think he is weak because he chose me. You think love makes him vulnerable. You are wrong. He is stronger now than he ever was sitting on that throne, because he is not fighting for power anymore. He is fighting for something real. Garen looked at her like she was an insect, beneath notice. You are a distraction, a mistake, and mistakes get corrected. Then correct me. Fight me instead. What? You heard me? You want to prove he is weak? Prove it. Fight me. If you win, you kill me and take him back. If I win, you leave and never come back. Garen laughed. It sounded like stone breaking. You cannot be serious. I am completely serious. Or are you afraid that a low-born healer might be more dangerous than you think? The nobles behind Garen shifted uncomfortably. This was not what they had expected. This was not how challenges worked. But Garen was not stupid. He saw the trap. If he refused, he looked afraid. If he accepted and won, he murdered an unarmed woman in front of witnesses. If he accepted and lost, he was humiliated. There was no good choice. So he made the brutal one. Very well. I accept. But when I kill you, his blood is on your hands. He drew his sword. Elira did not move, did not flinch, just stood there with empty hands and a face full of calm determination. Ryven grabbed her arm. What are you doing? He hissed. Saving you. You're going to die. No. I am going to show you what strength actually looks like. She pulled free, walked forward. Ryven felt terror flood through him. Pure. Absolute. The kind of fear he had not felt since he was a child watching his mother leave. He started forward. Garen's soldiers blocked his path. A dozen swords pointed at his chest. Move and we kill you where you stand. Ryven looked past them at Elira, at the woman who had walked through hell beside him, who had forgiven him when he did not deserve it, who had chosen him despite every reason not to, and he could not reach her, could not protect her, could only watch. This is what weakness looks like, he thought, not choosing love, being unable to protect it. Garen raised his sword. Any last words? Elira smiled. Just one. She closed her eyes. And the bond between her and Ryven exploded. Power poured through the connection like lightning through copper. Not Ryven's power. Hers. The same healing energy she had used to purge corruption from infected wolves. The same silver light that had destroyed the hollow wraith, but amplified, magnified, fed by a bond that had been broken and remade and tempered in suffering. The light erupted from her body in a wave. It hit Garen like a physical force, sent him flying backward 20 feet. His sword clattered across the dirt. Soldiers screamed. Horses reared. The light spread outward, touched every soldier, every noble, every wolf who had come to kill them. And it did not hurt them. It healed them. Old wounds closed, scars faded, pain that had lived in bones for years evaporated like morning frost. But it also did something else. It showed them the truth. Every soldier felt what Ryven felt the bond between him and Elira, felt the strength that came from choosing someone over power, felt what it meant to love something more than you loved winning. And it broke them. Not their bodies, their certainty. Because you cannot feel that kind of connection and still believe love is weakness. You cannot feel someone willing to die for you and call it vulnerability. You cannot touch that kind of bond and walk away unchanged. The light faded. Elira collapsed. Ryven was moving before she hit the ground, broke through the line of soldiers who were too stunned to stop him. Caught her before her head struck dirt. She was breathing, barely. Her skin was pale. Her pulse was weak. But she was alive. Ryven held her and felt something inside him break completely. Not his strength, not his control. Something deeper, older. The last wall he had been holding between himself and the world. He started to cry. Not quiet tears, not restrained. Full, broken sobs that shook his entire body. He cried for what she had just done. For the fact that she had risked everything to save him again. For the truth that he did not deserve her and never would. The soldiers watched in silence. Garen pulled himself to his feet. Blood ran from his nose. He looked at Ryven, at Elira, at the bond that had just shown him everything he had been trying to deny. His face was unreadable. "Take her inside," he said quietly. "What?" "Take her inside. Let her rest. This is not over, but it does not need to happen right now." Ryven did not move, did not trust this. "I'm not going to kill you while she is unconscious," Garen said. His voice was tired, defeated. "Even I have limits." Ryven picked Elira up carefully, carried her back to the cabin, laid her on the bed, checked her pulse, her breathing, made sure she was stable. Then he walked back outside. Garen was waiting, alone. He had sent the soldiers back, dismissed the nobles. It was just the two of them standing in the dawn light, like it used to be, before the throne, before the crown, before power turned friendship into something ugly. "I felt it," Garen said. His voice was rough. "What she showed me. What you feel for her. Good. I did not think it was possible. Did not think a bond could be that strong, that real. I thought you were delusional, thought you were destroying yourself for an illusion, and now I know you were right, and I was wrong." Garen looked away. "But it does not matter. The nobles will not stop. They need you back on that throne, need your bloodline, need the stability that only you can provide. And they will keep coming until one of us is dead. Then let them come. You cannot fight the entire kingdom. Watch me." Garen shook his head. "This is not sustainable, Ryven. You know it. I know it. Eventually they will send enough soldiers that even you cannot win. Eventually someone will get lucky, and when you fall, they will take her. They will use her. They will break her in ways that make rejection look merciful. So what do you suggest? Come back. Not to the throne, to the capital. Negotiate. There has to be a way to end this without more bloodshed. There is no negotiation. They want me to give her up. I will not do that. Then what will you do? Fight until I win or I die. And her. What happens to her when you are gone? She survives, because that is what she does." Garen was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, softer, almost regretful. "I am sorry. For what I did in the throne room, for forcing you to choose, for trying to control you. You deserved better from me. Yes, I did. I was afraid. Afraid of losing you. Afraid of watching you become your father. Afraid that love would destroy you the way it destroyed him. Love did not destroy my father. Fear did. Fear of being vulnerable. Fear of needing someone. He rejected his mate because he was terrified of what it would cost him. And that rejection ate him alive." Garen nodded slowly. "I see that now." He turned to leave, stopped. "There is an army coming, 3 days behind us. Bigger than this one, led by Lord Varric. He convinced the noble houses that you are planning to raise a rebellion in the eastern territories, that you are gathering followers to march on the capital and take the throne by force. I am not. I know, but they believe it, or they want to believe it, because if you are a traitor, they can justify anything they do to stop you. How many? 1,000. Maybe more." Ryven felt ice slide through his veins. "You cannot fight that many," Garen said. "Not even with her beside you. You need to run. Now. Tonight. Disappear into the mountains and pray they give up before they find you. I am not running. Then you are going to die. Maybe. But I will die standing. I will die protecting the people in these villages. I will die fighting for something that matters instead of a crown that takes everything and gives nothing back." Ryven met his eyes. "You should leave, Garen, before that army gets here, before you have to choose between me and them." "I already chose. The moment I came here. Then you chose wrong." Garen almost smiled. "Probably." He mounted his horse, looked down at Ryven one last time. "For what it is worth, I am proud of you. You became a better man than I ever gave you credit for, better than your father, better than me." He turned the horse. "But being a better man does not make you bulletproof, and when that army arrives, being right will not save you." Then he rode away. His soldiers followed. Within minutes, the village was empty except for Ryven and the people he had been protecting. He stood alone in the square and watched the dust settle. 3 days. He had 3 days to prepare for an army he could not defeat. 3 days to find a way to protect Elira and the villagers and himself. 3 days to figure out how to win a war he had already lost. This is what it means to have nothing left to lose, he thought. This is what it means to stand at the edge of annihilation and refuse to step back. This is what strength looks like when you strip away everything except the choice to fight or surrender. And Ryven had never learned how to surrender. Elira woke 6 hours later. She sat up slowly. Her face was drawn, exhausted. Using that much power had nearly killed her. But she was alive. Ryven was sitting beside the bed. He had not moved since Garen left. "Did it work?" she asked. Her voice was hoarse. "Yes." "Good." She lay back down. "There is an army coming, 1,000 soldiers. They will be here in 3 days. Garen warned me, told me to run, and I told him no." Elira turned her head to look at him. "Why?" "Because I'm tired of running, tired of letting fear make my decisions, tired of sacrificing pieces of myself to survive." He took her hand. "I am going to fight them. I am going to stand in front of this village, and I am going to make them go through me if they want to hurt the people here. I am going to show them that power is not enough, that an empire built on fear collapses the moment someone refuses to be afraid. You are going to die. Probably. Then I am fighting beside you. No, you are getting on a horse and disappearing before they arrive." Elira sat up. Her eyes were sharp. "We have had this conversation. I am not leaving you. You have to. If they capture you, I do not care. I did not come this far, did not survive corruption and rejection and everything else just to abandon you at the end. We fight together or we die together. Those are the only options." Ryven looked at her, really looked at her, at the determination in her silver eyes, at the set of her jaw, at the bond thrumming between them like a living thing, and he knew there was no arguing with her. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay. We fight together." She nodded once. Together. They spent the next 3 days preparing. Ryven trained the villagers, 30 wolves who had never held weapons. He taught them the basics, how to form a line, how to hold a blade, how to fight like their lives depended on it. Because they did. Elira worked on defenses, healing wards around the village perimeter, traps in the forest approaches, anything that might slow down an army long enough for people to escape. Neither of them talked about the fact that none of it would be enough, that 30 villagers and 2 exhausted fighters could not stop 1,000 soldiers, that this was suicide disguised as strategy. They worked anyway, because sometimes the choice is not between winning and losing. Sometimes the choice is between dying on your feet or living on your knees, and neither of them knew how to kneel anymore. The army arrived at dawn on the 3rd day. Lord Varric led them, fat and soft and smiling like he had already won. 1,000 soldiers spread across the valley in formation, cavalry on the flanks, archers in the center, infantry at the front. Professional, disciplined, overwhelming. Ryven stood at the village entrance with Elira beside him and 30 terrified villagers at his back. They looked ridiculous, like children playing soldier against veterans who had been killing for decades. Varric rode forward, stopped 50 feet away. "Ryven Kaelor, former Alpha King. You are charged with treason against the crown. Surrender now and you will receive a fair trial. Resist and you will be executed along with everyone in this village." His voice dripped with satisfaction. Ryven took a step forward. "Let Varric see his face. Let him see the absolute lack of fear there. I reject your authority. I reject your charges. And I reject the empire that sent you. Then you choose death. I choose freedom. There is a difference." Varric laughed. "Freedom. You think you are free. You are a rabid dog that needs to be put down before you infect anyone else with your delusions. You are a traitor, a failure, a king who could not even keep his own throne. Maybe, but at least I am not a coward hiding behind an army." Varric's smile died. "Kill them, all of them. Leave no survivors." The army surged forward, and Ryven felt something inside him snap. Not his control, not his fear, something older, deeper. The part of him that had been chained since childhood. The part that had been locked away because it was too dangerous, too violent, too purely, brutally honest about what he was underneath the crown and the armor and the cold calculations. He was a wolf, and wolves did not bow. They fought. He shifted. The transformation was instant, violent, His black wolf tore through skin and bone and humanity in a heartbeat. Massive, 9 feet of muscle and rage and absolute refusal to die quietly. Beside him, Elira's power exploded outward. Silver light wrapped around him like armor, enhanced his strength, his speed, his endurance. The bond between them flared so bright it burned, and together they charged into an army of 1,000. This is what it means to be truly alive, Ryven thought in the seconds before impact. This is what it means to fight for something bigger than yourself. This is what it means to love someone so much that dying beside them feels like winning. His jaws closed around the first soldier's throat. Blood filled his mouth. The battle began. And somewhere above them, the sky split open with lightning that had no storm to birth it. The battle lasted 4 hours. 4 hours of blood and screaming and the kind of violence that reshapes landscapes. 4 hours of Ryven tearing through soldiers like they were paper. 4 hours of Elira's silver light burning through the valley like a second sun. 4 hours of proving that love was not weakness. It was the most dangerous force in existence. Ryven fought like something that had forgotten how to die. His jaws closed around throats. His claws tore through armor. His wolf moved with a speed that should not have been possible for something so massive. Every soldier who got close enough to strike found themselves facing not just a wolf, but a bonded pair fighting as one organism. Elira's healing kept him alive through wounds that should have killed him. Her power magnified his strength. Her presence in his mind gave him awareness of threats he could not see. They were unstoppable. For a while. But unstoppable does not mean invincible, and 4 hours against 1,000 soldiers extracts a price that no amount of power can erase. Ryven was bleeding from dozens of wounds by the time the sun reached its peak. His movements were slower, heavier. Each breath felt like swallowing broken glass. Behind him, the 30 villagers had long since retreated. Smart. They knew when a fight was lost, knew when to save themselves. Only Elira remained. She stood at the village entrance with her hands raised and silver light pouring from her palms in waves. Her face was gray. Blood ran from her nose, her ears. She was burning herself out, keeping Ryven alive. And they were still losing. Because you cannot defeat 1,000 soldiers with 2 people. You cannot overcome those odds through sheer determination. You cannot rewrite mathematics with love. Eventually the numbers catch up. Lord Varric watched from the back of the army. Safe. Protected. He had not drawn his sword once, had not risked a single hair on his soft head. He just waited. Waited for Ryven to slow down. Waited for Elira to collapse. Waited for the inevitable moment when exhaustion won over willpower. That moment came when the sun began to set. Ryven stumbled, just for a second, just long enough for a blade to slip past his guard and open a gash across his ribs. Deep, bone deep. He howled, shifted back to human without meaning to, collapsed to one knee in the dirt. Blood poured from the wound, too much blood, the kind of bleeding that meant vital things had been cut. Elira screamed his name. The silver light around her flickered, then died. She had nothing left, no power, no strength, no way to keep him alive anymore. She ran to him anyway, threw herself between Ryven and the soldiers closing in. Her arms spread wide like she could shield him with her body. "Stop!" she shouted. "Please, he is down. You won, just stop." The soldiers hesitated, not out of mercy, out of confusion. They had been sent to kill a traitor. But the woman standing in front of them did not look like someone protecting a criminal. She looked like someone protecting the only thing that mattered. Lord Varric rode forward. His smile was back. "Step aside, healer. This does not concern you anymore. It concerns me more than anything in my life. He rejected you. He destroyed you in front of the entire court. He is not worth dying for. You are wrong. He is the only thing worth dying for." Varric shook his head. "Pathetic. Both of you. Love has made you delusional. No, power has made you blind." Elira looked back at Ryven, at the man bleeding out behind her, at the wolf who had fought an army to protect people he barely knew. He is not a traitor. He is not a threat. He is just a man who finally learned that some things matter more than crowns. And if you kill him, you are not protecting the empire. You are destroying the one person who could have saved it. Saved it from what? From becoming exactly what you are. Cruel, empty, a machine that devours everything beautiful and calls it strength. Varric's face darkened. "Kill her first. Make him watch." The soldiers moved forward, Elira closed her eyes. She had no power left, no way to fight, no way to protect either of them. She was going to die. They both were. And somewhere in the broken part of Ryven's mind that was still conscious, still aware, he felt something shift. Not his body. That was finished, done. His wolf. The dying beast that had been eating him from the inside out since the rejection. The thing that had nearly killed him when he severed the bond. It was not dying anymore. It was waking up, because wolves do not surrender. They do not bow. They do not accept death quietly. They rage. Ryven felt power surge through him. Not Elira's. His. Pure. Primal. The kind of strength that only came when you had absolutely nothing left to lose. He stood. The soldier stopped. Blood poured from the wound in his ribs. His legs shook. His vision was blurred. But he stood anyway. And when he spoke, his voice carried across the valley with a force that made horses rear and soldiers step back. "You want to kill me, Varric? Stop hiding behind your army and do it yourself." Varric laughed. "I am not a fool. Why would I risk myself when I have 1,000 soldiers to do it for me? Because you are afraid. Afraid that even dying, even bleeding out, I am still more dangerous than you will ever be." Ryven took a step forward. Then another. "You are afraid that if you face me alone, everyone will see the truth. That you are nothing without the power other people give you. That you are a parasite wearing a title. That you have never earned a single thing in your entire pathetic life." Varric's smile died. Soldiers murmured. Nobles shifted uncomfortably. Because Ryven was right. And everyone knew it. Varric had inherited his position, had never fought, had never bled, had never risked anything except other people's lives. He was everything wrong with the Empire condensed into one soft body. "Fine," Varric spat. "You want to die by my hand. I will grant you that mercy." He dismounted, drew his sword. It was ornate, expensive, the kind of blade that had never seen real combat. He walked toward Ryven with the confidence of a man who knew his opponent was already dead. Ryven waited. Elira grabbed his arm. "Do not do this. You can barely stand." "I know. Then why?" "Because he needs to understand." They all need to understand. That power without courage is nothing. That strength without sacrifice is hollow. That you cannot build an empire on fear and expect it to stand forever. He looked at her, really looked at her. Let her see everything he felt through the bond. "I love you. I should have led with that. Should have said it first. Should have chosen it before anything else. But I am saying it now. Ryven, please. Whatever happens next, you run. You get on a horse and you disappear. You find somewhere safe and you live. You do not waste your life mourning me. You do not let my mistakes become your prison. I cannot. Yes, you can. Because that is what you do. You survive, you heal, you keep going even when everything inside you screams to stop. That is your strength." He kissed her forehead. "Thank you. For seeing me. For forgiving me. For choosing me when you had every reason not to. You made me more than a weapon. You made me human again." Then he turned to face Varric. "Let us finish this." Varric came at him fast, surprisingly fast for a man who looked soft. Ryven barely dodged. His body was too slow, too damaged. The blade caught his shoulder. Opened another wound. He did not feel it. Did not feel anything except the bond. Except Elira's presence in his mind. Except the absolute certainty that this was the right way to die. Fighting, standing, protecting the woman he loved. He caught Varric's next strike on his forearm. Felt bone crack. Used the momentum to close the distance. Got inside his guard. And buried his blade in Varric's chest. The noble's eyes went wide. "Impossible," he whispered. "No. Just expensive armor and luck running out." Ryven twisted the blade. Varric collapsed. The army stared. Their commander was dead. Killed by a man who should have been dead himself. Killed in single combat. Killed fairly. And suddenly, no one knew what to do. Because this was not supposed to happen. The traitor was supposed to die. The Empire was supposed to win. Order was supposed to be restored. But the traitor was still standing, bleeding, dying, but standing. And that changed everything. Ryven turned to face the army. His voice was raw, but it carried. "Your commander is dead. You have two choices. Go home. Tell the capital that the Empire cannot be held together through fear and violence. Tell them that love is not weakness. Tell them that the Alpha King walked away because the crown was poisoned, and anyone who takes it next will rot the same way. He paused. Or stay. Keep fighting. Kill me. Kill her. Kill everyone in this village. Prove that you are exactly what I said you were. Weapons without conscience. Soldiers without honor. Men who follow orders instead of thinking for yourselves. The choice is yours. Silence filled the valley. Soldiers looked at each other, at their fallen commander, at the man swaying on his feet but refusing to fall, at the healer standing beside him with tears running down her face but her spine straight. Then one soldier dropped his weapon, then another, then 10, then 50. Within minutes, the entire army had lowered their blades. They did not kneel, did not salute, just stood there in silence, bearing witness to something they did not fully understand but could not deny. Love had defeated an empire. Not through violence, through refusal, refusal to bow, refusal to break, refusal to accept that power mattered more than people. A woman stepped forward from the ranks. Commander Vera. She had been there, hidden among the soldiers, watching. She walked to Ryven, looked at the wounds covering his body, at the blood pooling at his feet. You are dying. I know. Was it worth it? Ryven looked at Elira. Every lifetime. Vera nodded slowly. Then let me help you finish this properly. She turned to face the army, her voice carried with the authority of someone who had earned respect through decades of service. The Empire sent us to kill a traitor, but I do not see a traitor here. I see a man who chose love over power. I see someone who walked away from a throne that was killing him. I see the bravest thing I have witnessed in 30 years of service. She paused. So I am making a choice. I am choosing to follow his example. I am choosing to walk away. And any of you who want to join me, who are tired of serving an empire that demands everything and gives nothing, you are welcome to come. She dropped her sword. 50 soldiers followed her lead immediately. Then 100. Then 300. Within minutes, 2/3 of the army had abandoned their posts. The rest rode away in silence. Back to the capital. Back to report what they had seen. Back to tell the empire that its hold was breaking. Ryven watched them go. Then his legs gave out. He collapsed. Elira caught him, lowered him to the ground carefully. Her hands pressed against the wound in his ribs, but there was no power left in them. No healing, just pressure, just love. You did it, she whispered. You beat them. We did it. No. This was you. This was always you. Ryven smiled, blood stained his teeth. I am dying. I know. I am sorry. Sorry I could not give you more time. Sorry I wasted so much of what we had being afraid. You gave me enough. It does not feel like enough. She pressed her forehead against his. Nothing would ever feel like enough. We could have 1,000 years, and I would still want more. Vera knelt beside them. Her face was carefully blank, but her eyes were wet. Let me get a healer, someone who still has power. We can save him. No, Ryven said. His voice was weak. No more healers. No more fighting. I am done. He looked at Elira. I am ready. I am not. I know. But you will be. You are the strongest person I have ever met. You will survive this. You will rebuild. You will keep going. What about you? I will be wherever you are. Always. The bond does not die. Not really. You will feel me in the quiet moments, in the choices you make, in the people you save. His breathing was shallow now, wet. I love you, Elira Voss. I should have said it more, should have shown it better, but I am saying it now, and I will keep saying it until my last breath. She was sobbing. Full, broken sounds that tore through the silence. I love you too. I loved you the moment I walked into that throne room. I loved you when you rejected me. I loved you when you came for me. I loved you through all of it. Good. Then you know. You know that everything I did at the end was worth it. That choosing you was the only right choice I ever made. His eyes started to close. Ryven, please, do not leave me. I am not leaving. I am just going ahead. You will follow eventually, and I will be waiting. No. Yes. His hand went slack in hers. His chest stopped moving. And Ryven Kaelor, former Alpha King, the Iron Alpha, the man who carved an empire from frozen mountains and black water, died in the dirt with the woman he loved holding him. No crown, no throne, no army, just love. And somehow, that was enough. Elira did not scream, did not rage. She just held him and let the grief pour through her in waves so intense she thought they might kill her too. But they did not. Because grief, like love, is not fatal. It just feels that way. The villagers came eventually, helped her move his body, built a pyre on the hill overlooking Thornhaven, burned him the way wolves had been burning their dead for centuries. Elira watched the flames and felt the bond between them stretch. Thin, but not break. He was right. It did not die. She could still feel him, faint, distant, but there, a presence in the back of her mind, a warmth in her chest, a certainty that she was not alone. Vera stood beside her in silence. When the flames died down, she spoke quietly. "What will you do now?" "I will rebuild. I will heal. I will keep going." He would want that. "I know." "Will you go back to the capital?" "Never. That place is poison. Let it rot." "Then where?" "Here." The Eastern Territories need healers, need people who remember what it means to serve instead of rule. "I will stay. I will help. I will make sure his sacrifice meant something." Vera nodded. "I will stay too. Help you rebuild. Help protect what he died for." "Why?" "Because he was right about everything. The Empire is broken, has been for years. Someone needs to build something better. And you think we can? I think we have to try." They stood in silence, watching the last embers fade. Behind them, 300 soldiers who had abandoned the Empire were already helping the villagers repair buildings, plant crops, build defenses. They were not an army anymore. They were a community. And communities, Elira was learning, were stronger than empires. Because empires demanded sacrifice. Communities offered support. Empires bred fear. Communities fostered trust. Empires collapsed. Communities endured. 3 months later, Elira stood on the same hill watching the sun set over the valley. Thornhaven was unrecognizable. New buildings, new farms, new families arriving every week from territories that no longer wanted to serve the capital. The Eastern Territories were becoming something new, something that did not rely on alphas or crowns or the brutal hierarchy that had defined Dravor for centuries. They were becoming free. Elira felt the bond stir in her chest. Faint. Always faint. But there, she smiled. "I know, I feel it too. We did it. We built something worth protecting. Something you would be proud of." The wind picked up, carried the smell of wood smoke and fresh bread and life. She closed her eyes. "I miss you. Every day, every moment. But I'm not drowning anymore. I'm not letting grief define me. I'm doing what you asked. I'm surviving. I am healing. I am living." The bond pulsed once, warm, approving. "Thank you for choosing me, for fighting for me, for showing me that love is not weakness, that vulnerability is not surrender, that the bravest thing you can do is care about something more than yourself." She opened her eyes. "I will keep going. I will keep building. I will make sure everyone knows your story, knows that the great Alpha King walked away from power because he finally understood what mattered. Not conquest, not domination, not the cold calculations of empires, just love. Simple, complicated, brutal, beautiful. Love." The sun set completely. Stars appeared overhead, thousands of them, more than she had ever seen from the capital where smoke and stone blocked the sky. Elira turned and walked back down the hill toward the village, toward the people waiting for her, toward the life she was building from the ashes of everything that came before. She did not look back, did not need to, because Ryven was not behind her. He was beside her, always, in every choice, every word, every moment of courage when fear screamed at her to stop. He was there, and he always would be. Years later, when people asked Elira about the Alpha King, she would tell them the truth. He was not a hero, not a saint, not a figure to worship or emulate blindly. He was a man, flawed, broken, terrified of weakness. But he learned that strength is not isolation, learned that power without compassion is poison, learned that the bravest thing you can do is admit you need someone. And in learning those things, he became something the Empire had never seen. Not a conqueror, not a weapon, not a king, just a man who loved someone enough to choose her over everything else. And that choice changed the world. Not immediately, not dramatically, Not through grand declarations or sweeping reforms, but slowly, quietly, one person at a time. Because people saw what he did, saw him walk away from the throne, saw him fight an army to protect strangers, saw him die choosing love over power. And they remembered that there was another way, another option besides the brutal hierarchy that had defined their lives. They remembered that you could say no, could refuse, could walk away from poison even when everyone told you it was necessary. They remembered that love was not weakness, it was the only real strength any of them had. And slowly, generation by generation, the empire that Ryven built and abandoned transformed into something new. Not perfect, nothing human ever is, but better, kinder. More willing to value people over power, more willing to choose compassion over cruelty, more willing to remember that the greatest king they ever had was the one who gave up his crown. And somewhere in the quiet moments between heartbeats, between breaths, between the mundane details of life, Elira would feel the bond pulse, would feel Ryven's presence, would hear his voice in the back of her mind saying what he should have said first. I love you, every lifetime, without hesitation. And she would smile, because she knew that death had not separated them, knew that the bond they forged in suffering and tempered in sacrifice was stronger than any crown or empire or force in existence, knew that choosing each other was the only victory that mattered, the only one that lasted, the only one worth dying for. And in knowing that, in carrying that truth forward, she made sure that Ryven Kaelor did not die. He lived, in every person who chose love over power, in every voice that said no to cruelty, in every heart brave enough to be vulnerable. He lived, and he always would, because that is what love does. It does not die, it transforms, it endures, it survives, even when everything else turns to ash, especially then.